frequency must be precise. A miscalculation, and all the balloons and reflectors could break free and threaten aircraft in the vicinity.
There we go. 7.5. No, 4.2. Okay, let her go. Just see how it's hanging. Is that a good distance between target?
Okay.
This is 2 pounds. No, wait, we have a buoyancy surplus on this.
We do?
You know, we have an 11-to-1 buoyancy surplus.
We're going to take the balloon, we're going to launch it, and we're going to start shooting down the balloons with an air rifle, and eventually it's just going to come down in a heap.
We're feeling like we're just about ready to roll out the hangar and get on out. As long as we beat the afternoon breeze, we got a good chance of, playing out the experiment. So the sooner we get out there, the better, before we start shredding latex all over the landscape. And right now we have totally still conditions, which is really good balloon flying.
Our best evidence crew is pleased with the calm weather. Too much wind during the test could blow away weeks of work.
Well, that's a balloon. I thought that was... I'm going to let this go straight up now.
Filling 12 weather balloons with helium is a time-consuming process.
We're halfway there once we put this balloon on. Yeah, plenty of time for the wind to come up and make a big spaghetti mess out of it. Okay, so here you go. It's on the load line.
Number 12.
Lucky number 12. Say when, Pete.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Get this parachute off the ground.
With the balloon array completed, radar reflectors and a parachute are attached. And lastly, a replica of Mogul's sonar system.
What do you think, Bob?
It looks good. I like it. Mogul is launched. Yes, sir. Yeah.
The first ever replicated Mogul balloon train rises as expected. The team's hard work and attention to the smallest details pays off. It's taken many hours to assemble and launch Mogul, but now it's time to shoot it down and create a debris field.
Ready? Go for it. Get underneath the load line and you can probably get 4 or 5 in one pellet, so it's not floating all the way down.
Pick your spot.
Okay.
Fourth from the top. Drifting on down.
4 for 3, Kyle. It's getting low.
All right. Oh, that one caught on the target. Got it. Okay, here we go. Last one. Here it comes. All over.
There's your debris field. Go get them.
Galgansky immediately notices how much loose rope there is, something not mentioned in historical accounts.
And you would think that the targets would have something on there. I mean, look, they're tied right here. Would you be able to pull this off without any evidence of any line at all? It seems highly unlikely, really. And
the skeptics aren't convinced or impressed by the experiment.
I fear that there may be a lot of hot air, and I'm not talking about the balloons.
How does the size of our debris field and the condition of the materials compare to the original reports? Skeptics and believers assess the result of our experiment as we continue our search for the best evidence. Skeptics of the Roswell spaceship crash maintain what happened in the summer of 1947 was nothing more than the debris of a long string of weather balloons, radar reflectors, and a sonar system, likely a secret spy mission, codenamed Project Mogul. The Best Evidence experiment team has completed its own Mogul balloon crash at a desert test site, using a scaled-down model. One observer was certain of the outcome.
I think the results of this experiment will show to anybody with an open mind that Mogul did not have the volume of material to cause even the Roswell debris field, let alone what Marcel reported.
There was a wide range of predictions about the experiment before it began.
I don't know how it's going to turn out. I have no idea. And frankly, I think because the standard approach of the debunker is don't bother me with the facts, my mind's made up, that if it turns out that Galgansky is right on, isn't enough wreckage to account for what was seen. They will ignore that.
Jesse Marcel described the crash debris as being scattered over an area 3/4 of a mile long and several hundred feet wide. Our experimental debris field represented 12 balloons, roughly half of the original Mogul's size. Our debris field measured a diameter of 150 feet.
I think what this will prove is that any reasonable estimate of the amount of debris in any sort of Mogul crash doesn't amount to a whole lot.
You know, recreating it is going to be a shot in the dark. You know, if they can do it, wow. If they can't, I don't think it disproves the Mogul hypothesis.
I think that this kind of experiment is really predicated on too many assumptions. There's very little data.
This is typical of what you'd expect would happen. Notice here that look at all the line there. You'd expect that. With the load line, you'd expect to see something. The odd thing about the Roswell debris field on Foster Ranch was that there was no line found at all, period. We go over toward the radar targets. There's all the supporting lines. You can see the shroud lines from the parachute, but not a stitch on the debris field. And the Air Force didn't even show any in their pictures in 47.
What does this mean for the believers?
I think what it shows that there's no such thing as a balloon crash per se. It's a balloon landing. Okay, so there's nothing really spectacular that happens on the impact.
I think this experiment proves there was a Project Mogul, and this looks exactly like we thought it would look, and we've confirmed that Mogul consisted of these elements. The exact way the debris is scattered, of course, this is not like it would have been with something coming down in a storm and being ripped and shredded and distributed over a period of time.
No one is certain what may have caused a Project Mogul to crash. Often the sun would degrade the balloon material, causing it to burst. The discovered debris may have lain in the desert for up to 2 weeks, shredded and scattered by the wind. These are the uncertainties our experiment faced.
It's unrealistic to think that anything like this, made of mundane materials, could have been broken up and scattered to the extent that it would create something that would be construed as a debris field.
Who knows what that debris should exactly look like? We weren't there when it was being shredded, so the idea that we somehow know how a corner radar reflector will always look when it's been torn up is just folly.
12 weather balloons, 3 radar reflectors, a parachute, a sonobuoy microphone package, and hundreds of feet of nylon line. Now just piles of debris lying in a field. This experiment has only served to divide the two camps further.
The importance here is the way the components landed and what happened to them immediately afterward. In other words, they weren't smashed to smithereens. It doesn't look like they were torn apart. And again, the most important thing to me is the fact that there's no cord, there's no load line, there's no monofilament line used to suspend the targets, to suspend the balloons from the load line. This is not there in the Roswell pictures.
The arguments and evidence put forth by believers and skeptics hang on more than balloons and foil reflectors. Stories of threats, gag orders, and a strange piece of film. Next on Best Evidence. Tales of extraterrestrial beings occupying the solar system and worlds beyond got a boost in 1947 with the rumored crash of a flying saucer disk near Roswell, New Mexico.
If you go back to the papers, it was the story of the day for weeks and weeks. And it created an environment in which people were expecting strange and unusual stuff to fall out of the sky.
Our experiment set out to replicate the crash debris of a balloon train known as Project Mogul. For believers, it confirmed that Mogul alone couldn't explain the amount of debris recovered in 1947. In fact, for Robert Galgansky, it confirms that a Mogul balloon crash couldn't be mistaken for a UFO.
There were actually a number of targets that went down in the throughout the United States around the same time, and the local papers show pictures of them, and they look just like that. Okay, they're not broken up. They're pretty much intact. Somebody will find part of a balloon, maybe the neck and a little bit of the carcass, and that's what you have right here.
For the skeptics, the results were inconclusive.
What's happening is that the proponents have started with the answer they want, and they're looking over all the stuff, and they're saying, yeah, we can say this about that.
Several questions remain about the Roswell incident. Was there a conspiracy to conceal other information? The believers question why some key eyewitnesses were threatened into silence. Was it part of a government cover-up? Jesse Marcel Jr. recalls the night his father returned home from the Roswell Air Base, where the debris was first stored.
He sat my mother and myself down and said, "Don't ever talk about this again. This is so highly classified that nothing was to be said about this."
The rancher, Mac Brazel, was also allegedly threatened. After finding the debris, he gave interviews describing what he had witnessed.
They held him at the base for about a week and said they'd thrown him in jail, and he'd been forced to take a security oath not to talk about what had happened.
Some claim that following his release from the military base, Brazel's story changed dramatically. Radio announcer Frank Joyce recalls that day.
He says, "I was told to come here and tell you this story about the weather balloon, and if I didn't do it, it would go hard with you and with me."
Why would the military use threats if the recovered crash debris was simply weather balloons? Skeptics dismiss these stories as flights of fancy on the part of Roswell believers.
A supposedly secret government group that exists to keep from the American public the awful, fearful secret that extraterrestrials have crashed on the planet Earth. These pickled humanoids are kept at some secret facility.
And it's all a big hoax.
The most audacious Roswell account happened years after the event. In 1995, a film emerged, claiming to be an official military record of an alien autopsy. The footage is later revealed by its creators to be a hoax. It was shot by amateurs in Great Britain, proof positive that Roswell had graduated to the world stage of pop culture. This little New Mexican town continues to hold its place in the spotlight.
The reason I think it hasn't gone away is because something really did happen, that was far more than just a balloon crash. I think if there hadn't been any substance to this, even the ufologists would have given up on it a long time ago.
To my mind, the discovery of anything involving an extraterrestrial spacecraft would be the most wonderful, most positive, most incredible scientific discovery in human history. As a science journalist, I would just hop all over that story if I thought there was any reality to it whatsoever.
We've got people pretty much entrenched now in their positions, and one group is saying, we started with the evidence and we saw where it led, and it led to Project Mogul. And the other group is saying, we want very much to believe in flying saucers and we're not giving it up. And are those two groups ever going to be reconciled?